Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, and today is where ESPN and Zen collide. My guest is Gary Striewski. You've seen him probably every morning if you're like me on SportsCenter, but he's been doing DIY investing for a long time, and he goes all through his journey and why he does it. Let's go! This is episode 273 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Gary Striewski. You may recognize him from being an anchor on ESPN SportsCenter, but Gary is also a DIY real estate investor. Gary, welcome to the show.
It's about dang time. I got the invitation and we finally linked up. JG, man, I really appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to hopping on and having a good time.
Yeah, me too. And I was telling you just in the pre-call, it's been really interesting for me to find what real estate you've been doing on social and find that people can benefit from it so much more than kind of the guru culture that's out there. Why did you start posting your real estate content on what, obviously people know you from SportsCenter?
Yeah, I'm definitely the anti-guru. I'm definitely anti-guru culture.
Yeah.
Because then I would just be lying to myself, definitely. I think that so I'm an older millennial, right? But I'm sort of the last generation before smartphones and social media took over. However, I am sort of seasoned enough to know that was the way the industry is going. So I was kind of an early adopter, not for any sort of monetary, professional, or business gain of being on social media, but everybody lives their life on social. So it wasn't foreign to me to post, hey, here's what I'm doing. Hey, here's where I'm at. And of course, over the years, over the decades now, which is kind of crazy to say, your content evolves just as you evolve, just as you get older. So it's kind of cool. You go back on your timelines, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or any variation of social media, and you kind of see these chapters and this evolution of life, which is cool. And I think that's supposed to happen, right? When you look back and see these different stages and levels of your life. And I just so happen to be at the DIY, self-managing real estate investor portion of the life. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were growing up, though, were you interested in real estate? And if not, when did it first get on your radar?
Nope. I mean, I grew up in a very much controlled one salary home. Of course, both of my parents were together, still together, thankfully and fortunately. My dad was in the Army, and then he retired from the Army and became a Colorado State Trooper. My mom moving over here from Korea. She always worked, but, she likened it, and we kind of realized it as sort of grocery money, right?
Yeah.
She'd work with her friends at restaurants, whether it be server or because my mom could speak English and I grew up, I'm half Korean. Shocker, those watching, I'm half Korean. Those listening, and they're like, Gary Striewski, half Korean. The name doesn't equal. You'll just have to Google me. So, being half Korean, half Polish, Striewski, right? My mom, she could speak both languages, English, Korean, and a lot of her friends from church were only Korean or only spoke a certain language that wasn't English. So at any rate, she'd be the front of the house person at the restaurant, little side money. And, my dad, he was the breadwinner, right? He had a fixed salary. Unfortunately, he was a government employee the entirety of his life, right? Army, State Patrol. So I never grew up with this idea of people have more than one house, people manage more than one property. Eventually down the line, once I started in the real estate venture, they did actually tell me that they tried to venture into having a rental property. Yeah. It all happened on accident, and it was a one and done. We moved to Korea because my dad got stationed there for the Army. I was in first grade.
Yeah.
I grew up in Colorado Springs. We had to move to Korea when my dad got stationed out there. and they rented the house that we were living in Colorado Springs.
Classic accidental landlord. Yeah,
exactly. 100%. And as soon as we got to Korea, guess who decided to stop paying rent? So my dad, who again was in the Army, he was a tank commander. I mean, it's not like he's got expendable income and expendable vacation time.
Yeah.
Had to literally get on a plane, fly all the way back to Colorado Springs, Colorado to evict these people who decided not to pay. And that was their one foray into real estate investing. And that was it. So I had no idea that this was like an entire world, an entire way to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until I hopped into it myself.
But when you got into it, did you know about that or did you find out after?
I think it was right about that same time, because I was curious, and my parents, I'm 38. I talk to my parents every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. So I remember I bought my first home as a primary residence in 2018 when I got my job at ESPN, and I was 30 years old. And I said, all right, I'm done being sort of like this transient and renting. I have a contract. I'm going to buy a house.
Yeah.
And then about 2020 is when I sort of started dipping my toe into hey, I got, it was COVID.
Yeah.
I had a little extra cash in my savings account. I was like, I got to do something with this money. I have to do something. So I'm talking to my parents and thinking, hey, I'm thinking about like taking this money and buying a rental condo. And I think that's when about the time my dad was like, hey, you're in a position to do it. We tried it. Didn't happen. It was just my income and your mom and 2 kids at the time. We didn't have that luxury. We couldn't literally afford to take that chance.
Yeah.
But you can. You're young. You have you have a contract. You have stability at your work. Now's the time to do it. I say stability in the middle of COVID, right? But I took the dive, and half a decade later, I'm still doing it.
Well, what great advice from your dad, because I think a lot of people who are protective of their kids, my kids are both in their 20s, if you fail at something, you may try to tell them, hey, look, it didn't work for me, so you don't do it either. But it's really cool that he had the foresight to say, hey, look, take the gamble. It seems like you know what you're doing, and obviously had confidence in you to manage it and see what happens.
100%. And I honestly, at the time, had my mom and dad said, don't do it, I probably would not have done it, to be honest with you, just because, they're so important to me, and everything that they say I take to heart, and they haven't misled me yet. Right. So had they told me, we don't think so, or maybe you should wait a little bit, but they knew at this point in my life, 30 years old, I had been responsible up to that point. And they said, hey, you're afforded the ability in most every way we're talking about it to give it a try. It didn't work for us, but it might work for you. So, they sort of gave me the blessing, so to speak, and I'm glad that they did. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I find interesting, and I'm sure you will now as well, when like a lot of people, they buy their first house, it's for personal use, for themselves or for their family, but they don't think, hey, I'm a real estate investor. But a lot of my best investments over my entire life have been just houses I've lived in because I know how to buy and then they appreciate. And I was watching a video on your Instagram the other day, how you guys keep moving year to year, acquiring new houses. Now, are you looking at it differently? Because I think a lot of new investors don't look at personal residence as investing, but it could be one of the best investments of your life, and you can live there and enjoy it.
Correct. And that's sort of been my MO, and that's kind of been my approach and kind of like my buy box, so to speak, right? Of course, I work at ESPN, and I'm fortunate enough to cover sports for a living, but I'm not the Stephen A. Smiths or the SVPs or the Pat McAfee's. My salary doesn't have 2 commas in it, right? So I still have to be smart and wary and conservative when I'm buying things. So obviously, if you're buying a primary residence, for those who might not know, is you don't have to put the 20%. You don't have to put the 15 or the 10. You can put as little as 3.5%, so long as you make this your primary residence and live there and occupy it as your primary for a year. Yeah. And I'm actually under contract right now for the 5th property that I will be doing that with. And we're talking offline just before we started. I'm going back and forth because I'm only putting 5% down on this primary. It's freeing up some cash that I might actually be sending out another offer for a triplex that's right down the street. So it just gives you some versatility. It gives you flexibility and fluidity to use and see your primary residence as what will be an eventual investment property. And it is a very, very powerful tool and means to, slowly but surely and organically build up your portfolio in a safe way. In a safe way,
Right.
you're not diving head first into these mortgage programs who know that this is an investment, so they're going to hike up the points and hike up the price. And if you're entrenched in the property, you get to know it. You get to find the characteristics and fix little things, and you're kind of aware of what calls you might get after a year because you've lived it.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I feel like sometimes people who decide to invest, just invest first. Maybe they're renting. They don't know if they're going to stay, but they really don't have the reps to be inside houses to even know anything. So you're buying an investment property, but you don't know anything about what's in the basement. And I feel like I've been saying a lot of newer investors now who are getting into it, especially because a lot of people got interested during COVID when we couldn't really go out and see as much. They don't have the actual reps to know where the big problems are going to come. Did it take you a long time to figure out, like, I need to see a lot of houses so I can keep going to understand, like, hey, where are the pitfalls on this thing?
No, it's funny. So I moved to ESPN, but I was kind of a transient in this industry, which is, you sign a 2-year contract, you stay there, and then you're on to the next city. So fortunately, I had experience in living in different areas and climates and regions and apartments, quite frankly, where I'm like, all right, these are the items that wear out. This is how you live softly. This is how you live hard. These are the items that sort of stand the test of time. But it's funny, when I got my contract at ESPN, I was living in Dallas. And I was like, I'm sick of moving. I hate moving more than anything, which is funny because my number one strategy is like, let's move every year, every 2 years. But I would come up on the weekends. And I remember my real estate agent at the time, Cynthia, I met her and I was like, I want to go the first weekend I'm in Connecticut. I want to go look at houses. So, John, the first weekend I was here, we booked like 6 houses. I was looking at them. I'm like, God, everything is old and just gross in Connecticut. And she was like, this one wasn't on your list. It's right down the street. Bear with me and follow me. And we went to this house, and it's been the most incredible purchase to this date. It's the textbook by the worst house in the best neighborhood. And I got that house, and that was sort of like the canvas. That was sort of like my testing ground of doing all of the stuff that gave me firsthand experience, whether it was redoing a patio, building a fence, building out an attic, painting, just small stuff, swapping out outlets. And I lived in that house from 2018 to 2021. And I got my reps in my first house. So it was amazing. And the family who's been living there ever since I moved out, 4 years running now. And that thing's an absolute unit now with appreciation.
I mean, traditionally, if people just listen, you buy real estate and wait, and you can do it in a lot of ways. You can live there, then you can leave. You can just get it rented low and then watch it appreciate and see what you want, switch up the tenants. Or, one of the cool things I found about being a landlord for so many years is you can give someone a break when you know them. You can 100%. Make choices that can really assist people's housing. So like if you have the same tenant for 4 years, a lot of people I'm not going to go raise their rent every year.
100%.
Has that been something that's also kind of gratifying to you, seeing it from the outside as a landlord, saying like, I can help people also?
Oh, 100%. I'm not here to, give myself a pat on the back, but it's funny because I did send an email to the seller of the property that I'm talking about here, just to kind of give her a background of me. It's super competitive in Hartford County. We're the number 2 most active county in the country, which is crazy to think. Everybody's leaving Connecticut. So I'm thinking to myself, why are all these houses like getting in bidding wars when everybody's leaving?
Yeah.
But at the tail end of because it's a triplex and all tenants want to stay, and I don't call them tenants, I call them guests.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, tenants is weird to me. I don't knock anybody who says it, but and I wrote that. I said, since I have been, a landlord, I've never had a guest leave. So 5 years, I've never had anybody leave ever. I had one eviction. So that was, I learned the hard way.
That's good experience, though. Yeah,
100% good, 100% good experience. It's $1,500 well spent just for the experience, and that's how much it cost, minus including the loss of rent. But I've never had anybody leave, and I think it's a testament to treating people like people. I don't need to squeeze every penny or every dollar. I haven't raised rent on one condo. I haven't raised rent in 40 months. On this particular property that I'm talking about, I raised rent after the first year, $100.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been the same. Like, What people need to know is, you sort of get caught up in like, oh my gosh, rent went up this much every month. But what you need to realize is, and a lot of, seasoned investors know this, is if somebody leaves and you want to hike up rent a couple $100, $200-$300, well, you're going to miss out on at least a month of rental income.
Yeah.
And unless your rent is $150, right, or $200, you're going to lose money in that proposition, right? So again, treat people like people, and generally speaking, you get out what you put in, and you get back what you put out in terms of treating people like humans, being fast, having good communication. So, I said I didn't want to give myself a pat on the back, but dang it, John, I lied. I want to.
That's something that my dad taught me, because he dragged me around to rental properties and introduced me to the tenants was the first thing, instead of saying like, and then he would show me like, hey, this is how we get the rent. But I think it's important what you've said, because I've always told, my clients and other people getting multifamilies, like, if you have a good tenant, just keep them. It's not that big a deal if they're under value, because like you said, you don't have to do a changeover or something. And sometimes people will buy a unit, one unoccupied, one occupied, and the occupied one was never renovated, but the people like it. Mm-hmm. So it's like they deserve less rent, and they're great. They never call you, and they take care of everything. You're much better having a good tenant than trying to find a new tenant, because you just never know with rentals. At one point, you could go one day, or it could be 120 days. It's totally random sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. I think, God, it's such a basic human rule, but there is kind of like this sort of stigma, right? Oh, landlord, you're a money hungry devil, and that's why I don't even like that word either, right? So I don't use tenant, I say guest, and I say people live with me, as opposed to they're living at one of my properties, as opposed to me being a landlord. So slowly but surely, I'm trying to chip away at that narrative, right? Just there is good that is to be done with what we do, whether on a small scale like myself or a larger one like yours. Some people just don't want to buy houses. Some people don't want to build houses. Some people just want to cut a check and call somebody to fix their problems. And that's what we do. So
and right now, a lot of people can't buy houses. They're too expensive. So if you go into an area and you could get something that has good upkeep with a good landlord, you're going to stay a while. Like you said, all of your tenants have stayed except for one.
Yeah.
Have you ever found, like, I've always described it in my head, I always think of it like the tenants, or as you say, guests, they're caretakers of the property. So why wouldn't I want to develop a partnership with them? I think of it as a partnership, because we have to work together. They have to tell me when something goes wrong, so I can make sure that it's fixed. And you have to tell them if they're having an issue, with another tenant or something's going wrong. And I think the back and forth is what makes a good landlord-tenant relationship, because if not, you scare people from telling you when something's wrong, and then at the end you have a big problem.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. And actually, I'm 100% easygoing, go with the flow, mild tempered. But when I will get frustrated, and it might sound crazy to those who are just kind of new, right, to this whole property ownership thing, is when a guest doesn't tell me or prolongs to tell me when there's an issue. I'm like, let me be. And I do have a property manager. His name's Adam. He's amazing. We've been teamed up for the last 6 years. So he is sort of the first line of defense and kind of the buffer. So that way, it's not me getting every single call.
Yeah.
But if there is an issue, I implore them, please let us know immediately, because it's not going to compound. It's going to compound for them on a certain degree, but it's going to compound for me, monetarily speaking, physically speaking, on the property, if we don't heat it off immediately, expeditiously. So I appreciate when my guests hit me with most every little thing, because if it's a little thing, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Water off my back. If it's a big thing that they come to me quickly with, then all right, cool, we caught this thing early, right? So I appreciate the communication, and fortunately I would consider actually some of my guests actual friends of mine, so the communication lines stay open. Now I do my part in not asking or not reaching out to them outside of typical business hours. I'll generally have conversations 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 7 in the evening if it's something that's pressing. I won't text on weekends, even if it's the 8th, right? The 8th of the month, and I haven't gotten a check yet.
Yeah.
I won't text until Monday, just because I know, like, we have that rapport. I don't want to micromanage adults, right?
Yeah.
They know. They know. So, again, treat people like humans, treat them like adults, and they oftentimes reciprocate.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's wrong with kind of the guru-ness of real estate investing.
Oh,
That they're talking about leads and doors, and they're reducing the human, like the entire humanity of real estate. That it's people living in houses. Sometimes sure, self-storage. It's still people's stuff.
yeah.
There's always something that's a human. And if you're buying off market, I don't know if you found all your properties on market or found some off market, but when you start going direct to seller, like the price, everyone thinks it's the price. It has nothing to do with the price. It's all about the relationship. Where have you bought your properties, and how have you found just relationships, either with your agent or with the sellers over time? How much has that played a role in kind of helping you grow?
So I will say that I guess 100% of my deals have just been MLS.
Yeah.
Right.
I like buying off the MLS. I always have.
No, it's great. I mean, it's kind of a curated presentation of the property. And while this occupies a good solid chunk of my time, I think what a lot of people got to remember when they see, Gary Striewski does real estate is I have a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a full-time job that I work zombie hours. I host the morning edition.
Yeah, you get up early.
Monday through Friday. So my alarm clock goes off at 3:40 in the morning. I'm on TV on air 5 days a week at 7 a.m. Right. So I have a full-time job. I can't, what is it called? Go knock for or driving for doors,
yeah.
sending out mailers. I'm not looking at, county tax liens. I'm not doing any of that stuff. The MLS exists for a reason. I'm going to go find my properties there. And if I have the best, offer, cool. The way I scale is 1 to 2 properties a year. So it's not like I'm out there trying to amass or aggregate 100 doors a year. That's not the way I'm going to scale. That's not the way I want to scale. So I'm totally okay with hopping on Redfin, popping on Zillow, seeing what I like. I obviously have my filters set, but I love a raised ranch, and that's kind of, if I see one of those in this price range that I know I can make things work, I'm going to hit up Whitney and ask her to go meet me. So she's been great. I think my workflow, it works for me.
Yeah.
I like it. It's enough for me to take my mind off of, being the sports guy. Cause, every time you go anywhere, people want to ask you about what's going on in sports, which is great. I mean, I love sort of being that bridge, that connector between like the real world fan experience and like professional sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like talking about other stuff too, and real estate and watches and skiing and all that kind of stuff is stuff I like to have occupy my time.
Yeah, and you brought up driving for dollars, but I know you're a car guy, and I just think you'd be really the worst at driving for dollars because of your car choices and because of the sounds. You can't really hide while you're looking at to see like, oh, is that window broken or not? I think they're going to catch you outside. I mean, that takes you out right there.
Yeah, fortunately, there's a fleet of vehicles to choose from, and it was a whole lot easier in the summer of 2021 after I bought my first condo. I got the itch immediately. It was a turnkey condo in Hartford, and I got somebody in there within a couple of weeks. And I was like, oh, this is easy. I can do this. So I had a 2012 Jeep Wrangler that was with me through every single one of my moves from Colorado to Wyoming to Texas to Boston to Connecticut that I owned. It was the only thing I owned free and clear.
Yeah.
And I sold it for $19,000. And I used that as a down payment to my second condo.
Oh, wow.
$1,500 of that. This was July of 2020, in the dead of the summer. And I bought a 2008 Toyota Prius with no AC. And I was driving around, driving for dollars, driving for deals.
Yeah. You can do it in a Prius because it's quiet.
Yeah, and you can drive everywhere 50 miles per gallon. It was incredible, but it was in the middle of the summer with no AC. But man, that's honestly some of the most fun I've had in real estate. It was just me and my dog, Homie, at the time. Well, she's obviously still here, but it was just me and Homie. We were just driving around Hartford and Bristol and West Hartford looking for for sale signs. And that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. My dad, we went to yard sales every weekend, and I was like, hey, why are we going to so many yard sales? How many like baseball cards can I get? And then I realized as I got to like low 10, 11, like he was making an offer on every single house at every yard sale. And I always tell people, yeah, you can still do that. I mean, like you said, you can still drive for dollars now. You can still, knocking doors is a little bit much for some people, but a
Yeah.
lot of the old school techniques still apply to real estate now. Of course, technology plays a big role in real estate, but I think people rely too much on technology. And as we were saying before, they're not focused on the humans. If you want to buy a house from a human, you can't do it with just a postcard. They don't just sign the contract and send it back to you.
Correct. Yeah. And you know what's funny? The whole, we kind of laugh at it, the real estate guru. And I really, really try to, when I post about real estate or something else, to not come off as any sort of guru. Like I'm a regular dude.
If you don't have a course to sign up for, you're not.
No course. Follow link in bio.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm legitimately I'm a regular dude from a middle-class family who gets to literally live out my dream. So I try to convey as much, like how I'm appreciative and I bring in the people who I trust and I work with daily. And a lot of my content is, I'm pretty sure this will work. This is what we plan on doing. By no means am I a 100% finished product. But the beautiful thing about this real estate thing, kind of similar to houses and renovations, like if it doesn't mess up, you can put in some equity and fix it, right? Like,
exactly.
If it doesn't work out, try again, paint it a different color,
Yeah. Or literally just sit on it for a couple of years and rent it at a little bit less to someone because you didn't do it. And then, oh, wait, the neighborhood pops. Have you found though, especially because you've been doing what you're terming as house hacking, but you're doing it in a different way. You're buying single families, living there, moving. Have you find that the neighborhood choice can really be the big scale? It's not always a house. Like you said, your first one, worst house, best block.
Yeah. And it's a double-edged sword because especially if you plan on keeping it, and in specifically West Hartford, it's a beautiful thing to see that property value just skyrocket. And then you get the tax bill and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is a property. I mean, I can tell you, I bought it for $295,000 in May of 2018, and I probably would get no less than $6 for it right now.
I mean,
that's
real estate.
2-bed, 1-bed Cape Cod, right?
Yeah. It's funny though. We
100 across the street sold for $850.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like incubated in this perfect bubble. And fortunately, most of my properties kind of have that similar tune, right? I kind of forced equity in it while I lived there and brought it to life. And you get to kind of reap the benefits of that.
Yeah. And we were talking before because I went to University of Hartford, and obviously that's in West Hartford. And I lived off campus in Bloomfield when I moved there, and I rented it from like a lady. I think the lady, was an accidental landlord. She probably bought a house that was like a townhouse development. And my brother and I lived there together for a year. And then I lived there 2 years. And I was thinking the whole time, like, for college kids, we were pretty good tenants. There were no problems,
sure.
And I think she was learning how to be a landlord. She wasn't someone who ever called us, and I knew my dad as a landlord, but it was interesting being the tenant then and thinking back, like, yeah, I guess I was like a pretty good guest, as you would say.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool. It's a give and take. And I think if you put that out, you generally get it back. So,
yeah. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Gary. It might be a little strange because Randy Scott's not on as well. It's me, and I'm not doing any ESPN stuff. But if you think Gary's cool and you're getting a lot of information from his DIY real estate investing experience and you want to follow along, there's really only 2 ways to do it. Instagram, TikTok, both the Kimchi Poppy, and that's P-A-P-I. He'll see you there. Let's get back to the show. So what's been your trajectory? Have you're buying them, you're looking at a multi now, but has everything before this been all single family, or do you have multifamilies also?
I have a duplex in West Hartford, side by side brick. It was perfect. It was actually featured on an episode of House Hunters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 2021, and it was so perfect in every way. I still have it.
Yeah.
One side was completely renovated, or I guess up to date as of like 10 years ago. And the other side hadn't been touched. Hadn't been. And that's the side I decided to actively live in during the renovation process. And I tell the story all the time, but I think listeners and people who want to get into this have to hear it, is I was literally peeing in a bucket for 2 months, right? Like I didn't have electricity.
Oh, really?
There was no other option.
Yeah.
Because the other side, I wanted to get guests in there who, by the way, they're still there. I wanted to get somebody in there to help me offset. So I was sleeping. I mean, dust. Yeah, there's probably a little asbestos that was kicked up, but hey, whatever. Yeah. I wasn't kicking anything up too crazy, and it was mostly in the basement. But I mean, we literally brought. I'll send you pictures. We literally brought the kitchen and the bathroom down to the studs, and I was in the next room with a orange Home Depot bucket.
Oh God.
That's
rough.
My whole schedule was so strategic. I was working nights at the time, so I had my go bag with me at all times. Unfortunately, ESPN, they have some nice amenities. So I showered at work.
Yeah.
I made sure I did not drink a lot of water at night.
Yeah.
Right? I cut myself off of drinking too much water because I didn't want to go to the bathroom at night. Yeah, that was a live-in reno, and now it is a short-term rental, and it's awesome. I mean, that's another property that again, I bought it, $370 via probate, and now it's high fives, and that was in September of 2021. So, the valuations have boomed out here.
By doing a little fix and then waiting. Is the other side short term or is the other side long term?
Other side is long term. It's just a family, not a family friend, a friend who has her family there, and they've been there since March of 2021. Yeah, 4 years, and same rent for 4 years running. So
but we've been pushing a lot, telling people, look, if you have 2 units, do midterm or short term in one. I mean, this is like the greatest hack for having 2 units, even if you're house hacking on one side and you're like, now, hey, look, rates are high. That long-term rent looks okay, but what if I can 1.5 it? How does a short term work in West Hartford? Because a lot of people might think like, hey, that's not, they're not going to the beach. But I think people misunderstand how short term can be used.
Ton of medical. There's a ton of medical here in Central Connecticut, ton of insurance here in Central Connecticut. So it's funny. I put this thing on short-term market in October of 2023. Furnished Finder is a really good resource. So, and it actually benefited me because I was living there. I didn't want to move all my stuff. So I just left literally everything there. This is going to be a furnished rental. So listed it on Furnished Finder. I had a gentleman, Mike, great guy. He was moving from Boston, getting relocated from work. This was October of 23. And he said, I'll probably stay till the first of the year. I'll probably move out in January. And he was there for a year and a half.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He just left to go back to Boston in, July. He left in April to go back to Boston this past April 25. And it just so happened he was leaving, and I got a message from a doctor relocating temporarily for 6 months from Seattle, who needed a place. So I mean, I didn't miss a beat. Doctor moved right in. I partially did that because, one, I didn't want to move all my stuff, and secondarily, I think this goes back to sort of the human side. And again, not to give myself a pat on the back, but the family who lives on the other side, husband, wife, 2 kids under 6. I didn't want to really disrupt their life with a lot of noise next door because it's not a top bottom. It's a side by side.
Yeah. So they share a wall. Yeah.
So I didn't want too much traffic. I didn't want too much commotion. So I was looking for ideally just one person traveling who was going to be busy with work, who wasn't going to be there, needed a place to crash. And luckily, going on 2 years now, that's exactly the 2 types of guests who I've found, because in part, I didn't want to interrupt what they had going on the other side. So
it's much better than your true Airbnb. The midterm opportunity is, you get insurance is a great one. And so there's so many contract workers now, especially looking in your business, like a lot of people are going to come in, they're going to do it 6 months here, 6 months, they're going to go somewhere else. Of course, you're near University of Hartford, as we said, there's professors. I love professors. Sometimes they're coming in to just teach a class for 1 semester. They don't want to go through something that's all complicated. They just want to look on Furnished Finder. Hey, look, this furniture looks good. And they never do anything. All they do is go to work and come home like a travel nurse. It's like, it's magic.
And that's the premium that you can sort of charge. Because a lot of times, specifically with the medical travelers, is they get a stipend. So
Yeah.
if not all of their living expenses, a pretty substantial portion of it is covered. So you can kind of take, not liberties or take advantage, but you can justify a bit of a higher than market rent because it's furnished and that they're being subsidized.
Yeah, I mean, same with insurance. They traditionally overpay. I mean, they'll come in on lots of rentals and just see if they can get 3 months out of it because they're getting a big settlement, and it works for insurance. It works for the people. And I mean, it's interesting though to say like you had it all set up for yourself, and then you're like, I'll just leave my stuff.
Sure, yeah. And I did want to diversify the portfolio. So right now I have 6 active rentals. Majority of them are just long-term traditional rentals. I have the one short-term rental as part of the duplex, and I have a Airbnb in New Hampshire. So I wanted to diversify, and I didn't want everybody to be lined up because, of course, all of a sudden you got 6 people moving out, and you're absolutely screwed. Thankfully, again, I haven't had anybody want to leave, but I definitely wanted to explore the different avenues and the different times of long-term, short-term, seasonal, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gives you good experience as you go to get another property. Then you see what the next one, if you're not going to live there, you're saying like, okay, which things can I use in this bag that work for this, especially if you're starting to branch out in New Hampshire and other areas. 100%. So you just have New Hampshire and then everything else is in Connecticut now? Yeah,
West Hartford. Actually, the property I'm in right now, I purchased as a primary residence. This is actually a funny story. I don't think if I've ever told this story before, but when I was buying this house in December of 2022, the entirety of the process, this is an investment, this is an investment, this is an investment. I am bringing 10% down because the lender at the time said, cool, you can put 10% down as an investment. I was only 2 years in.
Sure, yeah.
I'm thinking, that's curious. I know you could put 15 if it's a single family, but if you say 10, okay. John, I get to the closing table, going through all my documents, This is the disclosure to say you are going to be occupying this as a primary residence. And I was like, whoa, that's not what I was told. So just, insert cartoonish brakes screeching on the tires.
At the worst time, yeah.
John, we literally get on the phone with the lender. And I'm like, you told me I can bring 10% down for a investment property. I had the email where she literally said this, and I've done mortgages with this company prior, two mortgages. This is my third mortgage.
Yeah.
And I literally was reading it to the attorney. He was like, yeah, that's what it says, but you can't do it. So we get her on the phone, and I'm like, certainly this is a mistake. Nope.
Surprise.
Yeah. So I'm like, so what do you want me to do? And the attorney was like, you can do whatever you want. And the lender was like, oh, yeah, I guess you have to put more down if you want it to be an investment. I'm like, how did you not know this?
Yeah. Because at the last second also.
He was like, well, do you have $40,000 to put down so you can have it as an investment? So I guess I tell this story to say, all's well that ends well. It ended up becoming my primary because I had the flexibility to say, all right, fine. You know what? I will move into this house for a year, and now it's been 2 years. I will move into this house because I have the flexibility to do so because I was in the prior house for over a year at this point. So instead of like letting this deal blow up because I got an incredible deal on this house, I said, all right, you know what? The position I'm in and the moves that I've made has allowed me to pivot, move into this house, even though I wasn't planning on moving into this house.
Yeah.
And making sure the deal goes through. I guess I tell that story to say, even if a professional, so to speak, in their field tells you something and you have a curiosity about it, double check your sources. Ask questions, ask a third party, and make sure what you're being told actually is the letter of the law. Because any federal charges for mortgage fraud.
Yeah. Well, you figured out a solution, and I think that's a lot of real estate is like, okay, like if you're doing a flip or even if you're renovating, like you were saying with the bucket, like something's going to go wrong every day. You have to really be nimble and figure out, okay, you can't freak out after everything. And you were talking about a buffer before. I have a buffer in everything that I do because I will freak out. But now I've learned, like, I don't want to be the first call. I want to be the one who can solve it when it needs to come. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good example of people saying, like, don't just say, okay, the deal is going to go to crap and quit right at the closing table. It's like, which ways can I fix this? I guess we can move in and just rent out the other place because you had done it before.
Yeah. And I was really close from walking away just because I was frustrated and I was like,
yeah, you felt deceived. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And you don't want, right. What's the saying? Your ego is not your amigo. I don't know who gets full credit for that, but it's not. Like, you got to tuck that thing away and don't let, what felt like a massive inconvenience at the time. And I guess generally speaking, it probably is, like, you weren't expecting to move, right?
Yeah.
Don't let short-term inconvenience ruin long-term sort of achievement, or don't let that affect you from ultimately getting to your goal. I got this house for under market in West Hartford, which is unheard of because the interior needed about $30,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
And it was me and it was Adam, and we knocked it out. So we took our time because you have 90 days from the time of close to move in. So we took advantage of that and got it in tip-top shape. And this is one of those ones where you see, $160,000 worth of equity immediately once you get it reappraised.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm glad I didn't walk away from it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that also goes to focusing on the asset. Okay, emotionally, this is pretty aggravating. I thought I'm about to close and with this amount, but then you have to take a step back and say, like, is this an asset that I really want to give up because there's a thing? Can I figure out a solution? And when the asset's good real estate investors figure out a way to close on it and then fix it later. Like, there's always a way. Some people will use cash to close and then get the mortgage after. You have to figure out all the levers to pull. But how have you figured out how to do it with the financing? Obviously you there's certain things that you like, that you want to get into your life. You want to get real estate to generate extra income on top of your salary at ESPN. Mm-hmm. But everyone always says they get to a point where it's like, okay, well, am I going to run out of money? Or is it because you're doing it in this nice pattern of 1 to 2 a year that you've planned it out right where it's going to work?
I think so. And I think I've been fortunate to be part of the market, right? The golden handcuff market where you can borrow money for nothing. I have a couple of properties, as I'm sure you do, and so many of your listeners, 2.99, 3%, 3.25. So fortunately, a lot of my properties are in, optimal lending positions and leverage positions. And I think all told, with the 6 properties that I have, I'm at like 60%, LTV, 60%, 60% leveraged. Actually, I'm closing in probably closer to 50%. Yeah. So I have a lot of wiggle room. And again, this does occupy my time, and I love it so much. And I spend every day doing something real estate related. But at the end of the day, the main thing is the main thing. And I do have a job that does take care of me. Yeah. So I do have that safety net, so to speak, where I don't ever over leverage myself, but I'm not necessarily too worried about buying something that I can't afford, right? I won't buy anything if I can't cover it in a month or 3 or 6 of non-generating months of income. So I'm conservative with my approach, generally the 1% rule, but I'm paying off a small condo next month, and I'll take that $1,200 net nut and I'll throw it at the next one. And if I close on this triplex that we just put an offer on, I'll be at 10 doors officially. And I don't know why this number's in my head, John, but I thought ever since I started, I said, if I can get to 10 doors, I'll be safe. I can stop, I can downshift, and I can focus on just paying them off. Yeah. And in the event that ESPN, gets tired of me, and hopefully not for another 20 years, I'll have these 10 doors as my ESPN contract, right? So I think if I get to 10, what I'll do is not stop, but I'll kind of pivot my emphasis on trying to pay a couple of them off. Yeah. That way I have a couple of those free and clear net incomes coming my way. And then, continuing on with the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. And I think, you obviously have a job that a lot of people growing up were like, I wish I could be on SportsCenter. Like I used to think, like, I know everything about sports, and I was like, this is such a cool job. And so some people may be listening and they don't love their job as much as you do.
Mhm.
But I've always said, like, you still need that special runway to be good at doing this side hustle like you're doing. You have a job, but maybe if someone doesn't even like their job, I always say, like, you should still be great at it, because that's what's going to keep you making more money so you can get more properties, right? I mean, I think younger people are looking at it like, how quick can I get out of my job, instead of how can I keep my job going, do really well at it, get more money, get more properties, eventually get more time freedom.
Yeah, I give a lot of speeches to, high schools and colleges and kind of younger crops of adults getting into the workplace. And it really is. And we liken it to the microwave generation, right? Like they see stuff on social media and they see young people, gurus, and they're like, why does this guy have a Lamborghini and he's 22 and yada, yada. And it was the microwave generation. They want it right now. They want instant gratification. And here I am as a 38-year-old kind of like, back in my day, I mean, my first job in TV was in 2010 working in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and my salary was $20,000, literally $20,000 in 2010. And then in 2011, I got a $1,000 raise. I was making $21,000. I qualified for government assistance. My paycheck every 2 weeks was $600 every 2 weeks. I ate one meal a day. And this is not like back in my day, I walked in the snow. But if you don't like what you're doing, but it's paying the bills, sorry to say, you have to keep doing it unless you find a different outlet, or unless you want to allocate your energy and your resources and your time and energy to something else that's going to compensate for that paycheck that you're getting, right? It's a give and receive work and dynamic. So if you don't like what you're doing, I guess a two-parter, find something you like doing as a hobby, as an outlet, and then it's a bonus if you can make money doing it. I mean, more money, there's more side hustles than just, being a real estate investor. I know people who wouldn't do this if it was the last way to make money on earth. Like the last thing they want to do is answer a text at 10 o'clock at night about, a broken this or a leaky that. Find a way to make money. There are so many ways to make money.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I mean, for people who look at it, for some people, it becomes a second job that they can't sustain. So it's really not for everybody. You really have to have that passion for real estate to make it worth it. And also so you don't do bad at your regular job. Then you're going to mess up being a landlord and your regular job, and then what are you going to do? You kind of end up with an asset that's not working, and now your job's not happy with you. So your runway's slowing down. And then, what people look at getting to this fire, which I don't really believe in the fire movement, but I think that, everybody's just in search of time freedom. How can I do what I want when I want? But look, for everybody, it's just not going to be there. But if you start doing, just like you said, look, I think people, they'll see you on TV and then you're telling the story now, like, hey, you're peeing in a bucket for 2 months, because that's a smarter move because you wanted to get money on the other side. I think that just tells people, like, there's ways to hustle through it, and, take some sacrifices on your own while you still can, before you have a family, before you have kids. It's easier to make these decisions, because then you just can't do the same things. You can't house hack, until you're 60 with adult kids. Family's just not going to be into it. They want yards and cool stuff.
100%. And that's funny you say that. I'm kind of like in this hyper aggressive mode right now because I'm recently engaged.
Yeah, I saw. Congrats.
No, thank you very much. It happened March of this year, got engaged. We lived together. We've lived together for the last year, and we've set a date for July of 2026. So I'm being, in the house hack we spoke about earlier. I was peeing in a bucket and, showering once and limiting my water. There's no way I can ask.
Right. That's what I mean. Things change.
To do anything remotely close. So even in this situation where I'm under contract now and we're set to close in the first couple of weeks or first week of July, this is a mini renovation at that. It's paint and carpet, but I've already enlisted help to do that between now and end of August when we're going to be leaving here. So there's levels to it, right? There's levels, and depending on how thick in the mud you want to get, whether you want to pee in a bucket or you got a significant other or kids and you simply cannot live in a place that doesn't have electricity. Okay, listen, hey, that's a pretty reasonable reason to buy something a little bit more turnkey. So I've sort of pivoted into now that is what this next house hack is going to be.
Yeah. And I mean, if you go back to where we started, buying a regular house to live in, you get the enjoyment. And hey, you live there for 5 years, it's going up in value. You're going to make money. You can take a HELOC, you can sell and then get a different house and upgrade. I mean, this is real estate in a nutshell. But I think, again, as you were saying, people rush, they're the microwave generation. They want everything too quickly. But real estate is the game that goes the other way. The longer you wait, the more money you're going to make.
It's such an overused saying. And I actually caught myself texting it to one of my buddies who I kind of mentor both in the real estate space and the workspace. We work together. He's a couple years younger, but it's not about timing the market. It's time in the market. You can't peg down a perfect scenario and a perfect price with a perfect rate. Right. It's date the rate, marry the house. You got to just get in, go, dive head first and learn how to swim once you're in the water.
Yeah, I love it though, because then it's like you can take more time to look at the asset. Like, hey, maybe I'm paying a little bit more because it's competitive. I'm in a huge, multi-bid environments. Everything gets 10 to 20 offers. But if you really know the asset's going to perform and you know your numbers and you want it, you just have to get it at the price you can, or else you're never going to win anything in competitive.
Not going down, basically. Hey, John.
All right, Gary. Well, I mean, this has been really interesting to getting to know you outside of SportsCenter. I think that's what I was telling you before. I think it's really helpful for people to see that you have diversified interests because everybody is looking for a side hustle these days. And we're trying to give them better ideas on how to do it. What's one piece of advice that you could give those younger people that you say that, you're talking to, giving speeches to? They're just starting their job career, but hey, they're really interested in real estate. What should they do?
Yeah. I mean, as it relates to, a two-parter, as it relates to, advice in kind of a professional environment, I say this to people in broadcast and otherwise. If somebody's going to task you with an opportunity in the workplace, this is not real estate related, it's probably in your best interest to say yes. Because there's probably, and this is specifically related to broadcast, if you say no to an opportunity in my field, there are 20, 30, 40, 50, 150 people who are going to kick down the door to say yes, right? So if you say no, there are open and hungry mouths who are right behind you who are going to take that opportunity. And you don't know what that assignment or what that opportunity would have led to, what people you were going to meet. It's unbelievable the places that I get to go. It's so silly. And I pinch myself all the time because I've wanted to work and host sport. It's literally written in my yearbook.
That's awesome.
Yearbook. Yeah. I'm going to host SportsCenter one day as a sixth grader. And then this jackass right here actually got there. That's crazy. That's crazy to think that some dude who was, on academic probation my freshman year at Colorado State, who, didn't have a dad in the business or who was a professional athlete, was just, a tank commander in the Army and then a corporal in the state patrol. And then like a mom who, just worked front of the house at Korean restaurants with her friends. Like their son got to live out his dream because of them. And every time I talk about my parents, I get emotional. So like, I don't know, they sacrificed, everything for me to, they saw that I had like a dream that I wanted to get to and a goal that I wanted to pursue. And instead of telling me like, that's so stupid, why would you want to do that? They just said, okay, go get it. And damn, like I did. It wasn't easy, right? But I was willing to outwork people. Yeah. I was willing to move where other people wouldn't. And if you put in the work, if you answer the call, if you say yes to the opportunity, I'm telling you, more oftentimes than not, it will work out in your favor. Yeah. All right. That's enough of Gary getting emotional. All right.
Well, that's fantastic advice, though, because I would liken it to people who go to real estate investing meetups. They meet investors. They meet a new flipper, and the flipper's like, hey, actually, I'll be at my flip Tuesday. Do you want to come? And they're like, nah, sorry, I'm too busy.
It's crazy.
You're never going to, you could have learned so much. You could have bumped in. You could have met a contractor. Crazy. It's really about taking the opportunities that are before you and making sure, you work hard to get them.
And and that's a perfect kind of segue into kind of the real estate answer to the question. There's no one perfect answer to this, right? But find a way to be around the people you want to be like.
Yeah.
Right. The whole network is your net worth. I just went out to lunch with a friend of mine who I met just by way of watches. He's 20 years my senior, and he's going to be retired soon. But I consider him a friend and also a mentor too, because I see him and I see the business that he's built. And just because we're not in the same industry doesn't mean I can't learn how to deal with crisis, deal with people,
for sure,
persevere. Right. So I guess to answer that question, long story short, is be around and get around people and environments that you hope to one day take part in. Just get around it. Forums, online, you're listening to this or you see me on Instagram. I mean, as you can attest to, I answer emails and I answer.
It was you.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? So get active, get in the conversations.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Well, I really appreciate it. It's been great getting to know you and letting the audience get this side of Gary Striewski, because they see you on SportsCenter, and now, if they follow you on social media, they should do it at the Kimchi Poppy on Instagram, correct?
That's me. That's the Korean side. That's the Korean side coming out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And if you like cars and watches, you're going to get a healthy dose as well, right?
Yeah. You don't know. Listen, it's a choose your adventure with Gary Striewski on my social. Like, you don't know if you're going to get SportsCenter highlights or me at a car show or me at a watch event or me, at the next renovation. So
yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on.
John, thanks so much for having me, man. This is a great time.
Yeah, my pleasure. That is Gary Striewski. He is an anchor on ESPN SportsCenter. You can also find him, as we just said, at the Kimchi Poppy, and that's PAPI at the end on Instagram. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get a preview of who's coming up on the next episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And we're going shopping centers for the first time. We go deep into shopping centers with my guest, Andy Weiner of Rockstep. What makes them different? They understand hometown America, and we talk about that a lot. They're fanatical about due diligence, super important, and their culture and core values drive what they do. If you are interested in shopping centers, this is the show for you. And even if you're interested in commercial, get on the train. We'll see you next episode with Andy.